Picture this, my friends. It's a stormy night in Rome, 37 CE, and the thunder is rolling over the city like the growl of some furious god. The marble corridors of the imperial palace are trembling. There's only horror, cloaked in the guise of imperial privilege. A girl, barely 14, is no longer a daughter, no longer a child, not even a person, just a number in a ledger, a statistic in the machinery of an empire that's turned inward, devouring its own. And Lucius Marcus, a man who once commanded legions and shaped laws in the Forum, now stands as a torchbearer to his daughters. Destruction. This, my friends, is not some twisted myth or whispered rumor. This is history. This is the story of Caligula the Insane and the most horrific sexual practices that scarred Rome forever. Welcome to WTF History, where we dive into the shadows of the past. And tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on an emperor whose name still sends chills down the spine. Let's set the stage. It's March 37 CE, and Rome is holding its breath. For 23 long years, the empire has been suffocating under Tiberius, a ruler whose paranoia turned the city into a maze. A fear. Whispers could get you executed, a glance could land you in a treason trial in the Senate. They've been walking on eggshells so long they've forgotten what it feels like to stand tall. The Praetorian Guard, those elite soldiers who decide who wears the purple, are restless, scanning the horizon for a new leader. The people are desperate for hope, for joy, for someone to remind them what Rome could be. And then, like a burst of sunlight after a brutal winter, comes Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus, Caligula, or Little Boots, as the soldiers called him when he was just a kid trailing his father, the beloved General Germanicus, through muddy army camps. To the Romans, he's not just an emperor by bloodline. He's the heir of Augustus, the grandson of Hope, a prince who grew up among soldiers, not cloistered in palaces. His name alone carries the promise of a golden age. When Caligula ascends, Rome erupts in celebration. Fireworks light up the sky. The Forum echoes with cheers, and for the first time in decades, people dare to dream of dignity restored. In his first months, Caligula seems to deliver on every expectation. He strides into the capital with the charm of youth, not the bitterness of a paranoid old man. He hands out bonuses to the legions, slashes taxes that have crushed the poor, and stages gladiatorial games so bloody and spectacular that the Colosseum runs red for days. Senators, hardened by years of Tiberius's cruelty, weep openly when Caligula speaks in the Curia, his words dripping with promise. They write prayers of thanks, altars smoke with sacrifices, and in the marketplaces, people call him the dawn after a long winter. He's human, he smiles, he laughs. Gods, when was the last time an emperor laughed? Rome is intoxicated, drunk on the belief that this young man, barely in his 20s, will bring back the glory of Augustus, the charisma of Julius Caesar. But here's where the story starts to twist. A serving girl vanishes from the palace kitchens. The steward shrugs, says she fled to avoid punishment, but whispers creep through the city. Her body was found in the Tiber River, marked with wounds. So while even the guards won't speak of them, then 2 more slaves disappear, a boy of 15, a girl of 17. Their corpses wash up downstream, faces frozen in agony, and those who see them turn away in silence. The palace offers no explanation. Caligula still smiles in public, still tosses coins to the crowds, still plays the part of the people's prince. And Rome, so desperate for hope, chooses to look the other way. After all, he's young, right? A man of power testing his limits. It's natural, isn't it? Time will temper him. he'll grow into responsibility. These are the lies the Senate whispers to itself, each word a bandage over the fear pulsing beneath their skin. Then, 6 months into his reign, in October 37 CE, everything changes. Caligula falls ill, struck by a fever. So severe it nearly kills him. Rome holds its breath. Temples overflow with sacrifices, priests pour wine on altars, and even battle-hardened soldiers, who scoff at omens, find themselves praying to Mars and Jupiter. The city can't lose this young star, not when they've just tasted hope again. Weeks later, when Caligula rises from his sickbed, pale but alive, the empire explodes in celebration. Animals are slaughtered in thanks. Families host feasts, and the Senate calls it a miracle. But those closest to him, his guards, his advisors, his sisters, swear the man who emerged isn't the same. The fever didn't just burn his body. It burned away something human in him. He returns convinced he's no longer mortal, no longer bound by laws or morality. He's a god, and gods don't answer to anyone. This belief, this unshakable conviction, is where the real nightmare begins. It's not just about one man's madness anymore. It's about what that madness will unleash on Rome. Caligula's about to take his private appetites and turn them into something far worse. A system, a machine that will pull the entire empire into its gears. Stick with me, WTF history fans, because this story's about to take us deeper into the shadows, where the emperor's whims become the empire's law, and no one, not even Rome's proudest families, will be safe. And so, my friends, we step deeper into the darkness of Caligula's Rome, where the promise of a golden age is crumbling under the weight of something far more sinister. That fever in 37 CE didn't just change Caligula. It set loose a force that's transforming the empire from within. The cheers from the forum are fading, replaced by whispers of fear, and the palace, once a symbol of power, is becoming a labyrinth of horror. Those screams we heard echoing from the emperor's chambers, they're not isolated incidents anymore. They're the sound of a city being consumed by its own ruler. Let's walk through these marble corridors together and see how Caligula's private depravity starts to spread, like a disease infecting the very bloodstream of Rome, turning hope into despair and families into pawns. By mid-38 CE, the Rome that celebrated Caligula's ascension is starting to feel the chill of doubt. The gladiatorial games still dazzle, the markets still hum, but there's a tension in the air, a quiet dread that seeps into every corner. Those missing servants, the girl from the kitchens, the boy and girl whose bodies washed up in the Tiber with wounds too horrific to describe, aren't just rumors now. They're a pattern, and the Senate, once so eager to praise their young emperor, is exchanging nervous glances. But Rome's a city built on power, and power makes people cling to illusions. They tell themselves Caligula's just testing his limits, that youth and excess go hand in hand, that he'll settle down with time. They're wrong, and deep down they know it. That fever, the one that nearly killed him, didn't just leave Caligula alive. It left him unhinged. He's no longer playing the part of the charming prince who handed out bonuses and cut taxes. He's rewriting the rules of what it means to be emperor. Laws, morality, human decency. These are for mortals, and Caligula's convinced he's far beyond that. He's a god, and gods don't ask permission. This belief starts reshaping the palace into something grotesque. The guards, once the pride of Roman discipline, are now handpicked for their cruelty, their loyalty tied not to oaths but to shared depravity. Caligula appoints a freedman named Helicon as his master of pleasures, a man whose survival depends on delivering whatever the emperor demands, no matter how obscene. Helicon's not just a servant. He's a procurer, a predator who knows the palace is no longer a seat of governance, but a hunting ground. Now, let's talk about those ledgers, because they're the heart of this nightmare. In the imperial archives, where scribes once tracked grain shipments and tax revenues, there's a new kind of document emerging. These aren't records of trade or conquest. They're catalogs of people, daughters of senators, wives of equestrians, sons of merchants, all reduced in numbers, their names erased, their ages and beauty noted with the precision of an accountant's quill. Agurlov, 14, listed by her father's rank and her suitability for the emperor's desires. A boy of 15, marked for his appearance and compliance. These ledgers aren't just lists. They're a declaration that Rome's families, its very future, are now the emperor's property. The city that prided itself on civilization is becoming a marketplace of human dignity, auctioned off at Caligula's whim. Imagine being a senator in this Rome. You've spent your life climbing the ranks, earning respect, upholding the laws that made Rome great. But now, you're summoned to the palace. And it's not to debate policy or vote on new aqueduct. It's to stand in a corridor, holding a torch, while behind a heavy door, your daughter's life is shattered. The guards don't let you look away. Hold it steady. They hiss. And you know that if your hand trembles, if you whisper a protest, another name, maybe your wife's, maybe your son's, will be added to that ledger. This is Caligula's genius, if you can call it that. He's not just breaking bodies. He's breaking spirits, forcing Rome's most powerful men to become accomplices in their own destruction. The palace itself is changing to match this new reality. Architects are no longer designing grand halls for feasts or temples for worship. They're building chambers designed for acoustics, where screams carry clearly into the corridors, where every cry is a reminder to those waiting outside of what's coming. Torch holders are mounted at precise heights, calculated so fathers can't escape the sight of their children's torment. Caligula insists on witnesses. You see, it's not enough to commit the act. It has to be seen, documented, shared. The guards drill their duties like soldiers on a battlefield, barking orders to senators, where to stand, how high to hold the flame, how long to stay silent. Falter, and another name goes in the ledger. Resist, and your whole family pays. By now, his identity erased. Everyone knows what's happening, but no one dares speak it aloud. To name the truth is to invite the emperor's attention, and attention means annihilation. The ledgers are Caligula's ultimate weapon, because they don't just record his crimes. They implicate everyone. Senators who stood silent, scribes who wrote the entries, guards who enforced the rules, they're all part of the machine now. And that machine is growing, turning private cruelty into a public institution, a system where horror is as routine as collecting taxes. But this is just the beginning, my friends. Caligula's about to take his madness to a new level, one that will strike at the heart of Rome itself, its families, its sacred bonds. Let's keep going, because this story's about to get even darker. As we walk deeper into the shadows of Caligula's Rome, my friends, the air grows heavier, the marble colder. The ledgers are piling up, the screams are louder, and the empire that once cheered its young emperor is starting to see the monster behind a mask. We've watched Caligula's private appetites become a public machine, with guards and scribes turning his whims into policy. But now, he's aiming for something even more sacred, something Rome held untouchable for centuries, the family. Not just any family, but his own, his sisters Drusilla, Julia Livilla, and Agrippina the Younger, women who carry the blood of Augustus himself. By 38 CE, Caligula is not content with breaking strangers. He's ready to shatter the very heart of Rome's dignity. And he's starting with his own blood. Let's step into the blazing light of a banquet hall and witness how he turns incest into a weapon, desecration in a theater, and family into a spectacle of power. Rome's still trying to hold onto its illusions. The Colosseum roars with gladiatorial games. The markets buzz with trade, but there's a tension that clings to every conversation. The ledgers in the imperial archives are growing, each page a cold record of lives. Senators' daughters, noble wives, young boys, reduced to inventory. The whispers of missing servants, of bodies in the Tiber, are now impossible to ignore, but the city's too afraid to speak aloud. Caligula's palace is a black hole, pulling in Rome's elite and spitting out broken shells. And yet, tightly, the air's thick with unease, but no one's prepared for what's coming. Caligula, reclining at the head of the table, reaches for Drusilla's hand and draws her close. The room freezes. Senators stare into their wine. Wives grip their goblets until their knuckles turn white, and the silence is so heavy it feels like the walls are closing in. Then Caligula's voice rings out, calm and deliberate. My divine sisters, blessed by Jupiter himself to share my affection as Juno shares his. He's invoking Rome's gods, twisting their mythology to justify the unthinkable. Jupiter married his sister Juno, so why can't Caligula do the same? It's not just scandal, it's sacrilege, a mockery of everything Rome holds sacred. The senators face an impossible choice: applaud or face treason. So they clap, their hollow applause echoing through the marble halls, sealing their daughters' fates with their silence. Drusilla, the closest to Caligula, becomes the center of his obsession. Rumors about their bond had swirled even before this night. During his fever in 37 CE, when he hovered between life and death, Drusilla was the only one allowed in his chamber, tending to him while priests and physicians were dismissed. When he recovered, he didn't just thank her, he elevated her, moving her into quarters reserved for wives, exiling her husband to a distant post. She's no longer just his sister. She's his divine counterpart, seated beside him during Senate meetings, presiding at religious ceremonies as a priestess and consort. Night after night, she's forced into rituals that strip away every Roman value, her dignity shattered in front of witnesses who can't look away. Julia Livilla, fiery and defiant, tries to resist, but punishment silences her. Agrippina, colder and more calculating, buries her rage, storing every indignity like a debt to be repaid. But for now, resistance is futile. Rome is Caligula's stage, and his sisters are unwilling actresses in a theater of desecration. When Drusilla becomes pregnant, his mania reaches a fever pitch. He stands before the Senate, draped in purple and gold, proclaiming the child in her womb as the son of a god, his heir destined to rule both heaven and earth. The senators, who once shaped empires, bow their heads, voting honors for an unborn child, conceived in incest, while priests burn offerings and citizens are ordered to pray for its health. Rome, the city of law and dignity, is now celebrating the violation of its own moral core. Then, in June 38 CE, fate intervenes, or perhaps it's a twisted kind of mercy. Drusilla dies suddenly. Some say from childbirth complications. Others whisper of poison from hands too broken to endure more. The truth is lost, buried with her. But Caligula's grief doesn't soften him. It shatters the last fragments of his humanity. He declares her a goddess, orders temples built in her honor, demands oaths sworn by her divinity. The woman he destroyed becomes a state religion, her victimhood enshrined. For Julia Livilla and Agrippina, the torment only deepens. They're forced to impersonate Drusilla, wearing her clothes, speaking her words, embodying her in ceremonies that twist grief into grotesque parody. To resist is death. To comply is to lose their souls. Caligula's message is clear. If I can do this to my sisters, imagine what awaits your daughters. The ledgers record these ceremonies with chilling precision. Dates, times, witnesses, outcomes, all written as if they're tracking grain deliveries. Sisters become property, wives become currency, children become entries, and Rome itself becomes complicit. The empire's soul is rotting. And we're about to see how this poison spreads even further, turning private horror into a public institution that will break Rome's spirit. Let's keep walking, my friends, because this nightmare's only getting deeper. We're stepping deeper into the abyss now. WTF history? Fans, and the air in Caligula's Rome is growing colder, the shadows longer. We've just witnessed the emperor turn his own. Sisters into pawns in a public spectacle, shattering the sacred bonds of family to prove his power knows no limits. But Caligula's not satisfied with personal desecration. He's building something bigger, something that will etch his horrors into the very structure of the empire. By 39 CE, his private appetites are no longer hidden behind locked doors. They're becoming a system, a bureaucracy of evil that transforms the imperial palace into a machine designed to perpetuate suffering. Let's walk through the gilded halls of this twisted empire and see how Caligula turns Rome's pride into a factory of shame, pulling everyone, senators, guards, scribes, into his web. The Rome that once cheered Caligula's name is a shadow of itself now. The markets still bustle. The temples still smoke with offerings, but the city's gripped by a quiet dread. The ledgers in the imperial archives are swelling, each page a cold record of human lives, senators' daughters, noble wives, young boys, reduced to inventory for the emperor's pleasure. But Caligula's not content with private ledgers or hidden chambers. He's creating a new institution, one that cloaks his depravity in the trappings of religion and administration. In the east wing of the palace, under ceilings painted with goddesses and nymphs, he establishes what the inscriptions call the Temple of Divine Service. Sounds holy, doesn't it? It's anything but. This so-called temple is a mockery of faith, a place where the wives and daughters of Rome's elite are processed not as worshippers, but as offerings. The chambers are perfumed with incense. Marble statues line the walls, and hymns echo through the corridors, but it's all a facade. Behind the curtains, it's a machine of organized abuse, operating with the efficiency of a treasury office. Every act is documented, every body accounted for, every indignity preserved in duplicate records for the archives. The statues? They're carved to resemble the very women trapped inside. Their faces frozen in stone while their real counterparts endure unspeakable torment. To the outside world, it looks like a sanctuary of piety. To those inside, it's a prison where dignity goes to die. What makes this system so chilling is how it pulls everyone in. Senators who want to keep their power are given ivory tokens. Little tickets inscribed with times and chamber numbers, summoning them to ceremonies where their wives' honor is traded for political favors, their daughters' purity bartered for contracts. These aren't optional invitations. Show up, or your family's name goes in the ledger. Speak out, And the archives, those meticulous records of every act, become a weapon, proof of your complicity that can be used to silence you forever. Caligula's not just consuming bodies. He's consuming reputations, turning Rome's guardians into captives of their own shame. But it gets worse. Caligula's imagination isn't content with the present. He's planning for the future. He launches what can only be called a breeding program, a horror that turns human reproduction into an industrial process. Physicians, trained in the finest schools at Alexandria, men who once swore to heal, are now inspecting women like livestock. They measure hips, note fertility histories, calculate productivity, potential, and dictate pairings as if they're breeding cattle. Young women of senatorial class are assigned to soldiers, gladiators, even foreigners, based on what combinations might produce strong, beautiful, or exotic offspring. These forced unions happen under the watchful eyes of guards and scribes. Every detail recorded, conception probabilities, infant outcomes, all written with the detachment of a tax report. Pregnancies are monitored like military campaigns. Diets are prescribed, movements restricted, miscarriages punished. When a child is born, it's not a miracle. It's inventory. Boys with strong frames are marked for military training, delicate ones for palace service. Attractive girls are destined for the temple, while less favored children are sent to manual labor. Families are erased, replaced by categories. Bloodlines are dissected into functions. The natural act of childbirth becomes a mechanism of servitude, all documented in those relentless ledgers. It's as if Rome's future is being rewritten, one forced birth at a time. And then there's the boys, the heirs of Rome's proudest families, snatched not for the battlefield, but for something far more sinister. In the north wing of the palace, chambers lined with mirrors force these children to watch their own transformation. Attendants bathe them in scented oils, pluck away there. To move like courtesans, their very manhood stripped away. Their names, Marcus, Lucius, Gaius, are erased, replaced with floral mockeries like Flora, Lily, or Rose. In the ledgers, they're not sons of Rome. They're male attendants, rated for beauty, grace, obedience. Senators, their own fathers, are forced to select and rank these boys, choosing them like merchandise in a market. This is the machine Caligula's built, a system where guards procure, physicians classify, scribes document, and senators stay silent. It's a factory of exploitation, and it's running at full speed. But the true horror isn't just the machine itself. It's what it's doing to Rome's soul, turning the city's protectors into its victims. Let's keep moving, my friends, because we're about to see how. This system takes its darkest turn, forcing fathers to become accomplices in their own daughters' destruction. As we tread further into the heart of Caligula's Rome, my friends, the darkness closes in, and the weight of this nightmare presses harder. We've seen the emperor turn his palace into a machine of horror, with a temple that mocks faith and a breeding program that reduces life to inventory. But now, we're stepping into the ritual that defines the collapse of Rome's soul, the torchbearer's duty, a practice so cruel it turns fathers into accomplices and families into fragments. This is where Caligula's madness strikes deepest, not just at bodies, but at the very bonds that hold a society together. Let's stand in those cold marble corridors and face the horror that roams. Most powerful men were forced to illuminate. By 39 CE, Rome is a city living a lie. The Colosseum still roars, the temples still burn offerings, but everyone knows something's wrong. The ledgers are growing. The temple of divine service is processing victims, and the city's elite are trapped in a web of fear. But nothing embodies this nightmare like the torchbearer's duty. Imagine you're a senator, a man who's spent his life building a legacy, leading armies, passing laws, earning respect. Your daughter is your pride, the light of your household. Then, one morning, a scroll arrives, sealed with the imperial crest. It orders you to bring your eldest unmarried daughter to the palace and prepare for illumination duty. The words are bureaucratic detached, but they carry a certainty of ruin. Refusal means death, not just for you, but for your entire family. Brothers executed, wives enslaved, children scattered among soldiers. Compliance isn't a choice. It's a sentence. You arrive at the palace, and the corridor stretches before you like a tomb. 50 feet of gleaming marble, lined with iron sconces where torches burn. The guards position you precisely, measuring the distance so that when the chamber doors open, your flame will fall directly on the scene inside. The architecture is a weapon, designed to ensure you can't look away. The guards bark orders. Keep your arms steady, don't speak, don't falter. A trembling hand means another name in the ledger, another daughter summoned as punishment. Some senators try to escape into their minds, reciting Virgil or solving math problems to block out the sounds. Muffled cries, breaking voices, the emperor's whispered mockery seeping through the oak doors. But nothing works. The screams find you, and you're forced to stand there, holding a torch that burns brighter than the honor you've already lost. Inside those chambers, your daughter, your child, your pride, is reduced to a number, a body, a statistic. When the doors open, the light you're holding reveals her destruction, and you can't look away. The guard makes sure of it. Some fathers break entirely, their spirits shattered as they watch their daughters emerge, forever changed, unable to meet their eyes. Others try to hold onto fragments of dignity, scratching desperate messages into the corridor. Walls. Archaeologists later find these cries etched in stone. We are the damned who breathe, the dead who walk. Another reads, May the gods forgive what emperors compel. These aren't acts of resistance. They're pleas for history to know they had no choice, that their silence was forced, that their torches lit nightmares they couldn't stop. Back in the forum, these fathers pass each other. With hollow eyes, their rivalry replaced by shared shame. They don't speak of it, but they know. Some drown themselves in wine. Others fall on their own swords, unable to live with the weight. Most endure, walking the marble halls as if they're still alive, though their souls died in that corridor. The daughters who return can't look at their fathers, not out of blame, but because the memory is too raw. Families fracture, bonds dissolve, and silence becomes their only language. Mothers clutch their younger children, terrified they'll be next. Sons grow up suspicious, knowing their fathers held the torch and might hold it again. This torchbearer's duty isn't just a ritual. It's a weapon that turns love into control, family into betrayal. Caligula's not just breaking bodies. He's breaking the very idea of family, the cornerstone of Roman society. By forcing fathers to illuminate their daughters' torment, he's making them complicit, poisoning every household with fear and guilt. The ledgers record it all, dates, times, names of witnesses, outcomes, all in the same cold shorthand used for grain shipments. But these aren't shipments, they're lives. And the empire is paying the price. This machine, with its torches and ledgers, is reshaping Rome into something unrecognizable, and we're about to see how it pulls everyone, senators, guards, scribes, into its gears, making evil a matter of routine. We're deep in the nightmare now, my friends, and the corridors of Caligula's Rome are colder than ever. The torchbearer's duty has shown us how far this emperor will go to break the soul of a city, forcing fathers to light the way for their daughters' destruction. But this is more than just personal cruelty. It's a system. For survival, Rome's still going through the motions. Merchants haggle, priests burn incense, gladiators bleed. But it's a city living a lie. The ledgers in the archives are the heartbeat of Caligula's new empire, and they're not tracking grain or taxes anymore. They're catalogs of people, names, ages, families, all stripped down to numbers for the emperor's pleasure. The temple of divine service is in full operation, a grotesque parody of religion where noble women are processed like offerings, their humiliation masked by incense and marble. But this temple is just one piece of a larger machine, one that's spreading its influence beyond the palace walls and into the very soul of Rome. Caligula's genius, and I hate to use that word for something so vile, is in how he makes everyone part of it, from the highest senator to the lowliest scribe. The guards aren't just soldiers anymore. They're procurers, trained to snatch victims with military precision. Physicians, once healers, now examine women like livestock, calculating their value for the breeding program. Scribes, who used to tally shipments, now document human agony with the same detachment. And the senators, Rome's proud elite, are the glue that holds it all together, their silence ensuring the machine keeps running. They're not just victims, they're functionaries forced to participate in rituals that trade their family's dignity for survival. Those ivory tokens handed out like invitations to a banquet are their tickets to hell, each one inscribed with a time, a chamber number, and a silent order: show up or pay the price. The ledgers are the key to this system's power. They're not just records, they're blackmail. Every senator who stood in the corridor holding a torch has his name in those pages. Every guard who's enforced orders, every scribe who's written an entry, they're all documented, their complicity sealed in ink and wax. If anyone thinks of rebelling, the archives are there, ready to expose them. Caligula's not just ruling through fear, he's ruling through shame. A senator who's watched his daughter's torment can't stand in the forum and preach morality without risking exposure. A guard who's carried out orders can't defect without his role being revealed. The ledgers ensure that everyone's trapped, bound by their own silence. But Caligula's not content with controlling the present. He's planning for the future. His breeding program, that horrific system we've glimpsed, is running at full speed. Young women, chosen for their beauty or status, are paired with soldiers, gladiators, or foreigners, their unions orchestrated to produce children for the emperor's needs. Pregnancies are tracked with obsessive detail, diets, movements, outcomes, all recorded in the ledgers. When a child is born, it's not a celebration, it's a transaction. Boys are sorted by strength or appearance, girls by beauty. Each assigned a role in the emperor's machine. Families are erased, replaced by categories of utility. The natural act of birth becomes a production line, and Rome's future is being shaped not by love or lineage, but by Caligula's whims. Then there's the boys, the heirs of Rome's great houses, transformed into something unrecognizable. In mirrored chambers, they're forced to watch their transformation into male attendants, their identities stripped away with scented oils and silks. Their names are replaced with floral mockeries: Flora, Lily, Rose, their voices trained to break. Their movements rehearsed until they glide like courtesans. The ledgers list them like merchandise, rated for beauty and obedience, their lives reduced to entries in a catalog. Senators, Their own fathers are forced to rank these boys, choosing the children of their peers like they're picking fruit in a market. It's a ritual designed to break not just the boys, but the future of Rome itself. This is Rome now, a city where evil is dressed in the language of administration, where cruelty is as routine as collecting taxes. The palace is a factory with departments for procurement, classification, breeding, and training, all running with the precision of a military campaign. But this machine isn't just about physical destruction. It's about breaking Rome's will too. Resist, turning the city's protectors into its victims. Let's keep going, my friends, because we're about to see how this poison spreads beyond the palace, into every household, every heart. Of family, the cornerstone of the empire. Caligula's not content with physical destruction. He's after the psychological devastation of an entire society, turning love into fear and dignity into shame. Let's walk through these haunted halls and see how one man's hunger reshapes a civilization. By early 39 CE, Rome is a city under siege, not from foreign armies, but from its own emperor. The Temple of Divine Service churns out victims. The breeding program produces children for servitude, and the ledgers grow thicker with every passing day. But the real damage isn't in the numbers, it's in the silence. Senators, once the voice of Rome, shuffle through the forum with haunted eyes, their rivalry replaced by shared shame. They've held torches, stood witness to their daughters' torment, and their names are in the archives, a permanent record of their complicity. To speak out is to risk exposure. To stay silent is to lose their souls. The torchbearer's duty, that cruel ritual where fathers illuminate their daughter's destruction, is the perfect symbol of this. It's not enough for Caligula to violate. He needs witnesses, he needs complicity. He needs to twist love itself into a weapon. Picture a senator standing in that corridor, torch in hand, the screams of his daughter echoing through the oak doors. He's not just a father anymore. He's a cog in a machine, forced to light the way for the emperor's cruelty. When it's over, when his daughter emerges, broken and unable to meet his gaze, the damage doesn't end. She carries the memory of that night, and so does he. They can't talk about it. Silence is safer, but that silence festers, poisoning their bond. Mothers, terrified their younger children will be next, clutch them tightly, their eyes darting to the palace gates. Sons grow up watching their fathers. Men who once stood tall in the forum, now reduced to shadows, their honor burned away by the torches they held. This is Caligula's true power. He's not just destroying individuals. He's destroying the family, the foundation of Rome itself. The ledgers make it all possible. They're not just lists. A merchant who whispers rebellion might find his son summoned to the palace. The archives are Caligula's insurance, ensuring that everyone, from the highest noble to the lowliest scribe, is trapped in a web of their own making. The guards enforce it, the physicians enable it, the scribes document it, and the senators endure it, their silence bought with the threat of exposure. Caligula's obsession with his sisters continues to cast a shadow. After Drusilla's death, Julia, Livilla, and Agrippina are forced to play her role, wearing her clothes, reciting her words, enduring ceremonies that mock their dignity. The Senate, bowing to Caligula's decrees, worships Drusilla as a goddess, their applause a hollow echo of their own defeat. The emperor's message is clear. If he can do this to his own blood, no one is safe. The ledgers note these rituals with the same cold precision, reducing sacred bonds to transactions, sisters to property, children to currency. The city's starting to crack under this weight. In the taverns, people whisper of disappearances, of noble women who vanish, of boys who return unrecognizable. But no one dares confront the truth, because attention from the emperor means annihilation. The ledgers record it all with clinical precision, dates, witnesses, outcomes, even notes on optimization strategies to increase inventory or improve compliance. It's as if suffering is just another resource to be managed, like grain or gold. This is the Rome Caligula's built, a place where evil is dressed in the language of bureaucracy, where the family, once sacred, is reduced to categories of utility. But this machine isn't just about breaking the present. It's about ensuring the future bends to Caligula's will. Let's keep going, my friends, because we're about to see how this system becomes a permanent stain on Rome's soul. We're nearing the heart of the darkness now. WTF history, fans, and the weight of Caligula's Rome is crushing. We've seen the emperor turn love into a weapon, forcing fathers to illuminate their daughters' torment and shattering the sacred bonds of family. But what makes this nightmare so uniquely terrifying isn't just the scale of his cruelty. It's how he wove it into the very fabric of Rome's institutions, making evil a matter of routine. By 39 CE, the palaces know. See how Caligula's bureaucracy of evil ensures that horror doesn't just happen, it endures. The Rome that once stood for civilization is crumbling from within. The markets still hum. The temples still burn offerings, but the city's soul is hollow. The temple of divine service is a well-oiled machine, processing noble women like offerings in a grotesque parody of worship. The breeding program churns out children destined for servitude, and the ledgers grow thicker with every passing day. But this isn't just about physical acts. It's about creating a system that makes everyone complicit. The guards aren't just soldiers. They're procurers, snatching victims with the precision of a military raid. Physicians, once sworn to heal, now classify women like livestock. Scribes, who used to track trade, now document agony with the detachment of accountants. And the senators, Rome's elite, are the key to it all, their silence ensuring the machine's survival. The temple of divine service is the crown jewel of this system. On the surface, it's all piety, incense hymns, marble statues, but behind the curtains, it's a processing center for Rome's elite. Noble women are brought in, their humiliation disguised as ritual, their suffering masked by the trappings of religion. The statues lining the halls are carved to look like the victims themselves, a cruel mockery that ensures their shame is immortalized. Scribes sit in alcoves, scribbling every detail, names, ages, performance ratings, even the revenue generated from each ceremony. It's all written with the same detachment as a tax report, as if human agony is just another line item. Senators are handed ivory tokens, inscribed with times and chamber numbers, summoning them to rituals where their wives' honor is traded for political protection, their daughters' purity bartered for contracts. These tokens aren't invitations, they're shackles, binding Rome's elite to the emperor's will. The ledgers are the machine's heart, not just recording crimes, but ensuring complicity. Every senator who stood in the corridor, every guard who's enforced orders, every scribe who's written an entry. Their names are in those pages, sealed in ink and wax. If anyone thinks of rebelling, the archives stand ready to expose them. Caligula's not just. Houses face their own nightmare. In mirrored chambers, they're forced to watch their transformation into male attendants, their identities stripped away with scented oils and silks. Their names are replaced with floral mockeries, their voices trained to break, their movements rehearsed until they're unrecognizable. The ledgers list them like merchandise, rated for beauty and obedience. Senators, their own fathers, are forced to rank these boys, choosing them like goods in a market. It's a ritual designed to break not just the boys, but the future of Rome itself. This is Caligula's empire, a place where evil is routine, where the family is dissolved into numbers, where silence is the only currency. But this machine isn't just about the present. It's built to last, to keep running even if Caligula falls. Let's keep moving, my friends, because we're about to see how this poison spreads into every corner of Rome's soul. We're almost at the end of this dark journey. WTF history, fans, and the weight of Caligula's Rome is heavier than ever. We've seen the palace become a factory of horror, with ledgers that strip people of their humanity and a system that forces everyone into complicity. But now, we're looking at how this machine didn't just break bodies. It broke Rome's spirit, leaving scars that lingered long after the emperor's fall. This is the story of how one man's madness poisoned a civilization, turning love into fear and dignity into shame. Let's walk these haunted corridors one more time and see the toll they took on the city that once conquered the world. By late 39 CE, Rome is a city in name only. The markets still hum, the temples still burn offerings, but the soul of the city is hollow. The temple of divine service churns out victims. The breeding program produces children for servitude, and the ledgers grow thicker with every passing day. But the real damage isn't in the numbers, it's in the silence. Senators, once the voice of Rome, shuffle through the forum with haunted eyes, their rivalry replaced by shared shame. They've held torches, stood witness to their daughter's torment. And their names are in the archives, a permanent record of their complicity. To speak out is to risk exposure. To stay silent is to lose their souls. The torchbearer's duty, that cruel ritual, is too heavy. This poison spreads beyond the palace. Mothers live in fear, hiding their children from the emperor's gaze. Sons grow up distrusting their fathers, knowing they held the torch in might. Hold it again. Families fracture, not because of choice, but because survival demands it. The ledgers record it all: dates, witnesses, outcomes, even notes on how to optimize suffering. One entry suggests increasing inventory before festival season. Another praises the revenue of younger victims. A third recommends narcotics to ensure compliance. It's not just evil. It's evil with a spreadsheet, suffering turned into a science. Caligula's obsession with his sisters continues to haunt the empire. After Drusilla's death, Julia, Livilla, and Agrippina are forced to impersonate her, wearing her clothes, reciting her words, enduring ceremonies that mock their dignity. The Senate, bowing to Caligula's decrees, worships Drusilla as a goddess, their applause a hollow echo of their own defeat. The emperor's message is clear: if he can do this to his own blood, no one is safe. The city's breaking under this weight. In the taverns, people whisper of disappearances, of noble women who vanish, of boys who return unrecognizable. But no one dares confront the truth, because attention from the emperor means annihilation. The ledgers ensure this fear. Endures, their pages a record of Rome's shame. Even the boys, those heirs turned into male attendants, carry the scars. Their mirrored chambers, their floral names, their forced transformations, they not just victims. They're symbols of a future stolen, a Rome where manhood itself is rewritten. This is the empire Caligula's built, a place where love is a weapon, where dignity is a commodity, where silence is the only currency. The machine he's created, with its ledgers and torches, is designed to outlast him, to keep running even if he falls. But the end is coming, my friends, and it's going to leave scars that Rome will carry for generations. Let's take one final step into this nightmare and see how it all falls apart. We've reached the final chapter, WTF history? Fans! And the air in Caligula's Rome is thick with the stench of decay, not just of bodies, but of a civilization's soul. We've walked through the torchlit corridors, seen the ledgers that turned lives into numbers, and watched an emperor twist family into a weapon. Now, we're standing at the end of this nightmare, looking at the wreckage left behind and the scars that Rome carried long after Caligula's. Blood stained the palace floors. This isn't just the story of one man's insanity. It's the story of how a city that conquered nations was brought to its knees by its own emperor, and how the echoes of that poison lingered for generations. Let's take one last walk through the ruins and see what Caligula's legacy really means. It's January 24th, 41 CE, and the end comes swiftly. Behind the curtains of a theater, Praetorian blades cut Caligula down, his purple robes soaked red. The city breathes a sigh of relief, hoping the nightmare is over. The man who called himself a god is dead, his body carried away, his name cursed in whispers. But killing Caligula doesn't erase the machine he built. The ledgers still sit in the imperial archives, their pages heavy with names turned into numbers. The torch holders, fixed into the palace walls, stand as silent monuments to families destroyed. The temple of divine service looms, its marble statues staring down like ghosts of the women they were carved to mock. The guards, the scribes, the senators, they're all still there, their complicity etched in ink and stone. The system was designed to outlast the emperor, and in many ways it does. Archaeologists, centuries later, uncover the evidence of this horror. They find the torch holders positioned with chilling precision, confirming the testimonies of ancient writers. They unearth fragments of the ledgers, where a senator's daughter is reduced to item 247, where a boy's life is summed up in ratings of beauty and obedience. They discover scratched notes in stone cells, where boys trained as male attendants left desperate pleas. We are the damned who breathe. These ruins don't speak of Rome's glory. They speak of its shame, of a city that let its soul be rewritten by one man's hunger. The palace, once a symbol of power, is now a mausoleum of broken lives, its corridors echoing with the ghosts of those who suffered within. The real wound isn't political instability or even Caligula's death. It's the invisible scars carved into Rome's people. Daughters flinch at thunder, the sound too close to the stormy nights when screams filled the palace. Sons grow into men unable to lead, their fathers broken into torchbearers. Families whisper of past dishonor, but never speak aloud, the memory too heavy to bear. The household, once the cornerstone of Roman life, is now a source of fear, its bonds twisted into tools of control. Love itself became a weapon under Caligula, and that poison didn't vanish with his death. Mothers continued to hide their children. Fathers lived with the shame of their silence, and sons grew up distrusting the men who failed to protect them. The trauma carried forward, echoing in generations that inherited not just laws and legions, but a quiet, lingering shame. The ledgers, those cold records of horror, are Caligula's true legacy. They show how power, unchecked, can turn humans into instruments, families into statistics, dignity into spectacle. They reveal a system where evil wasn't just committed, It was managed, scaled, preserved. Guards procured. Physicians classified. Scribes documented. Senators stood silent. And the empire became complicit in its own collapse. Rome never fully recovered. The scars ran too deep, the wounds too raw. The family, the foundation of the city's strength, was fractured, and no amount of new emperors or reforms could erase the memory of those torchlit corridors. This is what makes Caligula's story so chilling, my friends. It's not just about one emperor's madness. It's about how madness, cloaked in the language of bureaucracy, can break a civilization. The ruins of his palace still stand. The torch holders still fixed in marble, the echoes of screams carried by imagination on stormy nights. And in those empty corridors, there's a lesson. When evil wears the mask of procedure, when power finds satisfaction in systematic destruction, the result isn't just the fall of an emperor. It's the fall of humanity itself. History doesn't always comfort, it warns. Caligula's Rome is on this dark journey through WTF history. If this story's left you shaken, hit that like button, share it with someone who dares to face the past, and subscribe for more dives into histories. Shadows, drop a comment below. Tell us what shocked you most, or what other dark corners of history you want us to explore. We'll see you next time, when we uncover another tale where power and horror collide. Stay curious and stay brave.